Is it bad that I'm already thinking about uh, getting a chicken Caesar wrap when this is over?
No, nothing wrong with that.
What are you getting? The
That chicken pesto panini.
There it is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap this thing up real fast then. Then we can go get lunch.
Chicken Caesar, wrap this thing right up. This isn't a comedy podcast.
So what's up, man?
Not a whole lot.
You've been cranking at Preservation.
Yeah, I'm just trying to catch up before we go to Tennessee and get ahead of the ball.
I saw you driving that bus the other day. Is that the one that you guys have been working on for quite a while now?
The one I was driving was Justin's. That's been around the shop for a while. But yeah, we did. I am pretty much finished up on that one that I've been in for 2 months.
It's a bay window bus, right?
No, it's a split window.
Oh,
bus.
it is?
Yeah.
Oh, it was in the shop when I was there last, right?
Yep.
I guess I didn't pay much mind to what year it was. Huh. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's a 64. Yeah.
That's so cool. I've recently been getting more into buses,
Mm-hmm.
and I've always liked the look of a slammed old bus, especially a splitty, but I've never had any interest in owning one myself.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same ballpark just because I know they are expensive, so I've never had the want for one.
Yeah.
But now working on them every day, they're so cool.
I'm glad you say that after spending more time on them, because aesthetically, it's like, yeah, they're cool, but never, every time I'd sell a car and be ready to get into another project, I'd just never really be like, oh, I want to go find a bus. But then, I don't know, recently in the last year or so, I see more like front bumper pushing slammed ones. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm getting even the bay windows. I know the early splitties are obviously getting really expensive, but even just seeing like a bay window with a ton of patina slammed on the ground, I'm like, yeah. I could actually get into getting one of those, like being really into it. But that's cool. So you've been, I saw you were driving the 190 too. Or had it running.
Yeah, I drove it around a little bit. It runs and drives. Well, it doesn't anymore because I pulled the brakes apart and I need a couple calipers and I ordered the wrong radiator.
Oh no.
So you know how it goes. But
yeah. Did the coolant system need to be like revamped on that car?
Yeah, the radiator was pretty shot.
Oh,
so.
yeah. Huh. Well, that's cool though that you got it running and because you went and got it with a trailer, so you hadn't really driven the car before. So seems to shift okay and stuff.
Yeah. Goes through the gears fine and
awesome. That would be a cool car to come together.
Yeah.
Did you get management for that car yet?
I haven't yet. Nope.
Oh, that'll come soon. Actually, Doug. Actually, one of the questions Doug actually wanted to. He was getting antsy about you getting some stuff with Caster going.
Yeah.
So basically, this is Sunday. We're leaving for Tennessee on Wednesday night, or break of dawn. Not even dawn, like maybe 1 a.m. on Thursday morning or something like that.
Yeah.
So we've only got a couple days left. I still have an insurmountable amount of stuff to get done. Stuff that I want to sell at the TGC booth, merchandise that I still need to finish, but commission work too. There's still a lot of commission jobs that I need to get done. And I've been, as you know, and anyone who follows me on Instagram knows, I've been buried in the shop the last 2 weeks now trying to get the Century suspension not only done, but like designed, built in the car, critiqued, get all that stuff done, because I'm working on it in my father's garage, and he's recuperating from surgery.
Yep.
And so he's been laid up the last couple of weeks, and so this was a perfect opportunity for me to use my dad's shop to get that car done, because our unit obviously is empty. Don't have any tooling at our shop.
Right.
So I've been kind of under the gun to get that car done before we leave for Tennessee, because now that he's healed up, he's got some stuff that needs to go in the shop and get up on the lift. So this has been like the worst 2 weeks out of the entire year that I could like start this project, because of all the stuff leading up to Tennessee and all the logistics and all the different variables of everything that we got to get done and sorted. But I finally, last night I set it down off the lift. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, you've seen the last post I made this morning, actually.
Yes.
Last night, got it off the lift, got it on the floor, and what an effort like it was to get that thing done in the time I had. Because there's no bolt-in kit. It's not like you're not reinventing the wheel with bagging one of these cars, but I'd never bagged one before, and not a lot of people, especially in America, have bagged one either. So there's like really no like, it's not like bagging a car that requires, light fabrication, but a lot of people have done it to where people are like, this is what I did or whatever.
Right. You can't look up what someone else has done and just kind of emulate that.
Yeah. So it was tough. It was tough in that sense, to where I had to like look at all the suspension and figure out how everything was going to move and what needed to be notched, what needed to be removed, what needed to be relocated in order to get the car as low as possible, all the while not chopping the car to bits because of how rare that thing is. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so long story short, the car's on the floor in the garage, and that's why I wanted to take you down there when you first got here to just, man, that car's got so much presence in person.
Yeah, the photos barely do it justice.
It's insane. And as I mentioned to you when we were in the shop, has nothing to do with like what I've done to the car. The car itself has all the presence in the world, but lowering it down to the ground and putting it on split wheels, especially a wheel that emulates the OEM wheel, in my opinion, because they look just like a better version of the OEM wheel. The thing just has, I told you, like when I got done taking a bunch of photos in the shop, I just stood there for like an hour just staring at the car, like just letting its presence just kind of like be known to me. It was just, it was pretty cool. This has been, I don't know. That's the most rewarding part of a project like that. When you build a lot of suspension components, either from scratch or you modify them, and then that first air down, when you get it off the lift and you get it down on the ground, and now you're able to like relate your height to the car's previous height to where it's at now. And, especially long cars when they're on the ground, they just look twice as long. And that's my favorite part of every project. Every single project's that first air down, or that first time off the lift, and you can kind of like walk around the car and absorb its new presence.
Right. And all the work that you've done to it.
Yeah. So I'm on cloud 9 right now, because I still can't believe there's one of just over 400 ever built long wheelbase Centuries on air sitting in the shop right now on the floor. That's just, I'm so excited. I cannot wait for winter to be over. I can't wait to cruise that thing. Ocean City, Maryland this year. I'm so excited to get that podcast of the century going, to do some like 15 or 20 minute like podcast shorts in that thing. Oh, I'm so excited. And now that I've got the 2 rear mufflers out, I removed most of the exhaust to get into the rear suspension. That 4-liter V8 sounds so good with no mufflers on the back.
Yeah.
It needs a proper like turbo muffler, like a glass pack or something, to give it some tonality.
Yeah.
So it's not like raspy or too loud. It's got to be just right, in my opinion. I don't want it loud for the sake of loud. But
yeah,
a V8's
if you do step up the diameter of the exhaust, it'll get less raspy.
Exactly. Your sound waves can bounce around more. Yep. Yeah. And since my dad's been a custom exhaust specialist his whole life, I'm in good hands if I want to like really get nuts on the custom exhaust stuff.
Yeah.
So we've already, when I had it on the lift, he came down a couple times and I kind of showed him the undercarriage of the car and what my thoughts were on the exhaust. And, and I could tell once he starts, he's kind of he'll tell you stories. My dad well enough, but like, he's kind of a reserved, like real quiet guy. But once he starts to respond to like comments or questions, you can tell his gears are turning. And I'm like, all right. Yeah, he's into this, So sometimes if he's just real quiet and just doesn't say anything, I never know if he's like into it. Like, is he like, or is he just like, my son's wasting his time with this? But he did trailer his tractor out into the middle of the woods and help me extract the 700 out of basically a swamp. So
no, he's into it, and it's really cool that he is. Yeah.
And I trust me, man, I'm grateful. I don't take it for granted at all, because I know other people that don't have that, So so I it's cool that he's into it. But that car, yes, that's like done for the most part right now, and now I can focus on everything else that needs to be done to get to Tennessee on Wednesday, and focus on Riverside, which is the 14th. We'll be down in Tennessee for a week before the show, but now I can like just come back to that when we get back from Tennessee, because there's a lot of, I didn't finish anything in the trunk. Everything's just plumbed in and wired in and functional right now. So I have a lot of really, really cool ideas, in my opinion, to like finish that thing off. So yeah. So I think for this episode, we're just gonna kind of hang out, get up to speed with what's going on.
Yep.
Mostly Q&A stuff. I I wanted to get one more podcast episode out before we get to Tennessee because I'd like to do these weekly if I can. Obviously last week didn't work out, but luckily I was able to get a YouTube video up of the Century build.
Yes.
Of like episode 1 of getting into the Century. Episode 2 is filmed. I just need to edit it. I'm hoping if I've got time, I can get it done and up before Wednesday. That'll be a photo finish if I can spend the time required to get that done. But I'd like to do these weekly, and I know that once we're down there, there's going to be a week where we won't have a podcast up. I am going to sit down with Mason.
Yep.
And I'm going to try to sit down with Nikolai from Simply Clean as well. So I'll be able to record a couple and then obviously catch up afterwards. So I'm glad we were able to sit down for this one now to at least just get one up. Even though there's no real agenda to this podcast,
right?
I put a Q&A out on Instagram again, and so we'll get right into that and expand on a lot of those to just kind of sit here and kind of hang out and talk about some of that stuff.
Yeah, sounds
good. But Russia looks like it's coming together. Mm-hmm. I haven't looked at flights yet. I haven't even texted him back, but my buddy Kaisel, the Kaisa on Instagram, texted me this morning even, and it looks like he's going to go, and he was wondering if we were going to try to meet up in London with him and the ILB Drivers Club boys. So once I start looking at flights, it'll be awesome to try to get to Heathrow or at least get to London and meet up with Kaisel, Adam, James, and whoever else is coming from the UK to Russia. So once I start looking at flights, I'll be able to bounce ideas off you and dates and see if you can make it happen too.
Yep.
Really excited about that. Ruslan from Grounded has been in touch with me. We've been talking back and forth. He even sent me a show itinerary of the day, and he has it set up that like I'm giving like a speech and Adam too from ILB.
Yeah.
But it's like general talk with Adam and John, and I'm like, and Adam, it's like a group chat, and Adam chimed in. He's like, "Is anyone going to be able to understand us?"
That's true. It's
we're
a good question.
we're going to be in Sochi, Russia, and actually the show is held in this tiny little village just outside Sochi. I can't remember the name of it, but the show's grown so big now that a big part of the show is also held at the Olympic Stadium.
Yes.
Where they held the Olympics in 2014, I believe, whenever the Sochi Olympics were held. So really, really cool. And but yeah, Ruslan said he's going to give us an interpreter. Since all I know is Privyet, Spasiba, and Dyakuyu. Although that's Ukrainian. That's thank you in Ukrainian. I don't know any Russian.
Yeah.
I know like hello, thank you, and goodbye.
Nothing.
That's it. So I'm going to get a Rosetta Stone and get working on that as if I have time for anything else.
Because that's an easy language to learn.
Oh my goodness. I'd love to learn Russian.
I would too.
My family's German. Well, they came over like 200 years ago, but you were with me when we went to the town that my family came from in Germany. Man, yeah, that was really, really quite cool. My dad was living vicariously through me on that one. That was pretty cool. But yeah, a little town called Nenderoth.
That's right, Nenderoth.
And they celebrated their thousandth year anniversary in 1990. So that place been around since 990. That's so
crazy.
nuts. That's so crazy. But yeah, so it'll be really cool to go to Russia. That's been bucket list for me for the longest time, to see the Kremlin in Moscow and just kind of like, I'm fascinated with Russia's history, even like the czars of the past, but leading up to the Soviet Union, the Iron Curtain, that whole deal too. So it'd be really cool to go visit Russia. So hopefully that's coming together. What else is on the list of things to do? Oh, the dually. Shout out to Mason Gavin and our buddy CJ, whose father owns a shop in Dalton, Georgia, who just went through all the brakes on the dually. It needed shoes, wheel cylinders. They turned the drums. They thought it needed axle seals, but it didn't. It needed U-joints. It needed a center U-joint in the drive shaft. It needed a rear U-joint. And they hammered all that stuff out for me. They knew we were going to be hauling my 24-foot trailer 1,200 miles home in a couple weeks. So they went through the whole truck for me and made sure that everything was good to go. We still need to do glow plugs and a few other things when we get down there, but that stuff should be easy enough to just knock out at Mason's shop. So luckily we don't have to take the rear end apart to get the brakes sorted. It had a soft pedal when Mason first drove it. So I had CJ's dad's shop look at it. And they're like, it's leaking in the rear, and those 1-ton dualies, it's just a lot of work.
Right.
Get the whole rear end apart.
Just to get all 4 tires off in the rear is enough work.
So although we could have done that, I'm glad someone else did. I was happy to pay them to do that. So thank you guys for being able to look at that in such short notice. And yeah, so maybe we'll just get right into the Q&A and we can expand on some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people ask some like music questions, some BMX questions. Yeah, some mostly automotive, but some not so automotive related stuff too, which is pretty cool. But Steve Paris, our good friend from
Yes.
England, Steve Paris, didn't ask a question, but he sent in a very important statement. He said, it must be time for a stateside one-wheel Wendy video. See you guys in the UK. So
One wheel Wendy.
a one-wheel Wendy.
Yep.
So a Wendy is a burnout. And to be honest, I don't know if that's a UK British thing. Steve's the only person I've
I was
ever
gonna
heard say
I
it.
think that's just a Steve thing.
And it's so good. More people need to adopt that. When you do a burnout, it's a Wendy. So tag us in your videos or photos of sending a Wendy.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I don't have any cars that are capable. Well, I guess they are. I don't have any cars I want to do Wendy's in
Yeah.
because everything will break. Like the Century's too big and heavy. Its power to weight ratio is just out of this world.
Yeah.
Bad. So that probably couldn't do a burnout. Maybe. But
Maybe if you air it out all the way.
yeah, so it can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Although I think everything would break. There'd be a path of destruction.
Yeah, that wouldn't. Let's not try that.
The Corvair probably could. I just did U-joints in the rear end of that thing. That thing could probably do. Get a little bit of sandy pavement just to get going.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
I don't know, that's incredibly underpowered too. But 700, actually, the power to weight ratio in the 700 is actually incredible.
Yeah.
It's a stock 1500 single port Beetle motor, but it's a tiny little previously 2-cylinder powered car. So
That may be the best candidate.
maybe we'll get the dually doing a good
Oh,
Wendy.
yeah.
A 4-wheel Wendy in the
Yeah.
back. I mean, that's a 7.3 turbo though, so that thing's gutless as all gutless, but it's a truck. There's no weight in the back.
It's got a clutch.
That's right, it is a manual. Just dump that thing and maybe we'll no. We can't do
I
a
know.
Wendy video in
Can't
the
break it
dually
on the way home.
before we go home. But you're right, Steve. It is time for a one-wheel Wendy. One-wheel Wendy's are cooler than two-wheel Wendy's
Absolutely.
because it shows that you're not scared or you don't care what other people think of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're just letting that one tire fire just roast.
Yep.
Who cares what people think?
I'll try it in the 190 in a couple days here.
Funny you should say that. The first car I ever did a proper, I say proper, it wasn't quite a one wheel. The other wheel caught on afterwards and they
Yeah.
ended up both. But my 190, which is a manual, was the first car I actually did like a burnout in. And I was all by myself and it was in front of the house here. And this is the house I grew up in. So when I was a kid, my dad, who, as I mentioned before, was incredibly reserved, always had a muscle car, always had a late 60s GM muscle car when I was a kid and was incredibly reserved driving it. And every blue moon when we'd be coming back to the house, and we live on a main road that's like, well, it's through the woods. So it's not like a bypass or anything. It's just one lane one way, one lane the other. And it's a little bit of an incline coming back to the house. And every now and then he'd come to a slow stop, like 100 feet, 200 feet from the driveway. And I knew it was happening.
Yep.
I knew it was coming. And it never happened often. So I remember, I can like remember the smell. I can remember how I felt as a kid because he'd come to us. He wouldn't say anything. He would just come to a stop or slow down. And I'm like, oh, and I'd be grabbing onto the door card. I'm like, oh, it's gonna happen. And he'd put it in first and just dump the clutch and just roast a burnout by the house. Like,
Heck
and
yeah.
it was like, that's my fondest memory as a kid because it would only happen maybe 5 times when I was a kid. Maybe that's it. And it was always in different cars. And it was always in like, yeah, he had a small block Nova. He had like a 66 Nova for a little bit. He had a 69 SS396 Chevelle. He had an early 70s Z28 Camaro, like a second gen Camaro that was pretty built, small block car. Yeah, man. So anyway, I was coming home one day with the 190 and I was all by myself and I pulled up. I was just thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I'm going to do a burnout. And I stopped right about where my dad used to stop. And this is a little 2, 3, 4 cylinder, naturally aspirated, nothing done to the motor. This thing is bone stock, open diff rear, but it's a manual. So I'm like, all right. You know, I'll rev this thing up and dump the clutch. And so, yeah. And I just let it rip. And I've got a photo of it. I didn't sit there and boil the tires. I just basically let them break free and just first gear, you know, let it roll through first gear until the motor sounded like it had enough. And then that was it. But it was maybe 50 feet worth of rubber.
Yeah.
And it was like one for the longest time. And then the second one finally decided to join in. But But I've got a photo of like the only burnout I've ever done, and I was by myself, and that's the way I think the good burnouts are.
Right.
Like, I mean, a good burnout when you got a whole crowd watching too, but
Yeah.
when you break something, you're not like embarrassed in front of a whole group
Exactly.
of people. If I had broken something, I'm there at the house. I can like push it back to the shop.
Yeah.
But yeah, one wheel Wendy's. we gotta get a video of your 190.
Yeah, we do.
One wheel Wendy. My buddy Ricky Granell, Das Ginger says, I've never seen you with an iced coffee. Why you no cold brew? Check it. If you're watching on YouTube, we are actually currently drinking the Stoke chocolate cold brew.
Yes.
Ricky, I do drink the cold brew or iced coffees, but mostly in the summer when it's hot out. When it's winter, man, we're buried in winter right now. I gotta get that hot coffee.
Yeah.
It helps. But yeah, we're sipping on some Stoke cold brew right now as we speak. So I do cold brew.
Do.
Why you know doo-doo?
I didn't say that.
Some people would say that chocolate cold brew does taste like doo-doo, but I really like it.
No, that chocolate is so good.
I enjoy it. Carly Southern. It's Carly time. Mason's fiance now,
Yes.
who put on Riverside, says, what's your favorite thing about Mason Gavin? He's Mason Gavin.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing about Mason.
All of the above.
Mason's the best, man. Yeah, Mason's the best. I can't wait. Man, I'm so excited for next week. He's so funny. We're going to help him finish bagging his W123 Mercedes. We're going to get Oakwood Cafe. We're going to eat the best food. Next Sunday's my birthday. So we're going to go up to Nashville Saturday. Saturday night, we're going to be at Pharmacy. I'm going to get a farm burger, and they've got Abita and Sprecher. At least they used to have both. Root beer on tap there.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I checked, maybe it was just Abita. But regardless, birthday celebration next Saturday night in Nashville. We're going to be at Pharmacy. Good burgers with the garlic aioli on it. Going to get that Abita, no ice, in a glass. Man, you haven't been to Pharmacy yet, man.
No,
You're not even ready. This place is so good. But yeah, I love Mason. And I can't wait to spend time with both you and Mason. Carly is who I'm referring to. And the fact that you guys are engaged to be married. And their engagement party is going to be while we're down there, too.
Right.
The day after Riverside. So excited to see you guys here pretty soon. Numa Chris. Chris is from England. He's got the that bagged SVX Subaru. That was at Players.
Yep.
Really cool car. Really cool car. He asked, what's your favorite phrase or saying you've heard during your visits to the UK?
One wheel Wendy.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
A one wheel Wendy. Nice bit of kit.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think that one's hilarious. So anyone who's listening who hasn't been versed in the United Kingdom slang, a bit of kit is basically like a thing you're talking about, like whether or not it's a car. If you bought a new thing, like Ben Walker just bought that new it's not a Bridgeport, it's a Thiel, but he just bought a new basically a Bridgeport for his shop, and he's like, man, made a big investment. Here's the new piece of the shop, and I was like, that's a nice bit of kit. He's like, so
yeah,
I like that saying. Take the piss.
Yeah, take the piss. When Ben says it's doing my head in.
Yeah, I like that
gets
too.
me rolling.
That one's pretty funny.
Yeah.
And with the accent involved,
Yeah.
it's just so funny the way those guys talk. And Cockney slang
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense in the world.
Like
But
that one day we were standing in front of Ben's house and his neighbor came over and tried to talk to us.
Yeah.
And even Ben was like, I don't know what he's saying.
it's English words, but the words put together don't make any sense.
Right.
Like nipping up the apples
Yeah.
is like walking up the stairs.
Right.
Because apples, pears rhyme with stairs. You drop the word that rhymes and use the other word for some reason. So it's apples and pears, stairs, drop pears, apples. Apples are stairs. And I think, I don't quite remember, but I think this all started, everyone from England will be shouting through their speakers if I get this wrong. But I think it all started with like people that worked for the wealthy. And it was
Right.
like this like code slang that they'd basically be taking the piss on the landowner or whatever.
I think that's correct.
It was almost just like a secret code, so people didn't understand what they were saying. But yeah, dog is like the phone. So dog and bone, phone, drop bone, use dog. So nipping up the apples, talking on the dog or something, or something like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. But I think it's cool that they have that. Like we have the Deep South. We have like the Bayou.
Right. Yeah.
And when you watch our Southern shows, even here in America, they're subtitled because you can't understand a word they're saying. So it's almost like Cockney
That's
rhyme
true.
slang to people in England. But yeah, those are a few of our favorites. Knackered. When you're like exhausted.
Tired, yeah.
Yeah. Doing my head in. That one's a good
Yeah.
one. That one's a good one. My buddy John Hansen, JH_creative from Wichita, Kansas, asks, oh man, he asks, are we going to hang at Alpine Vag Fair? The Jetta is going. Man, I don't think I'm making it this year, John. I trailered the 700 down last year. Helen, Georgia. That's where SOA was held for years. It's a little European town in the Smoky Mountains of Georgia, northern Georgia. What a beautiful place. You haven't been yet, right?
No, I've never been to Helen at all.
If we end up going to Worthesy, we probably won't be able to make Alpine. Alpine's it's a 20-hour drive, 18 to 20 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just super far. All my stuff's old. So, I trailered the 700 down last year, and that was fun. I did SOA about 3 years. I drove the Corvair in 2014 from here. But, yeah, I don't know if we're going to make it, John. We'll see. It wasn't in the plan because of, like, Russia and trying to get to Poland for racism, and I don't know. We'll see. I hope so. Strictly to hang out with you guys. But, yeah, we'll keep everybody up to speed with that as we get closer. Robert Overhalser, 356 GT3R, my good friend who owns Lufttechnik Porsche shop in Richmond, Virginia, says, why don't you have a vitamin or energy drink sponsor yet? That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't drink energy drinks, though. He says this because he's been under... Have I told you what he's in the middle of right now?
No, not recently.
For the Amelia Island trip?
Nope.
So in 2016, I flew down to Richmond, Virginia, where his shop is, and we loaded up his Stuka, that 993 powered 911, and the Porsche bus, which is a 1956, I think, double-door bus with a 993 motor in it.
Yeah.
Thing's wild. We loaded those up into his enclosed trailer and hauled down to Jacksonville to stay with my buddy Chad Nightingale, who's got a cool collection of cars. And then we did Amelia Island with the whole Lufttechnik crew, a whole bunch of old air-cooled Porsches and stuff. And this year, he hadn't even planned to go this year until like last week. And he put 3 motors in 3 911s, and one of them's been like sitting out back the shop. It's an old Targa that's just been sitting for years and years. Hasn't been on the road for like 20 years, 20 some odd years. And they just built the motor, put it in it, and he's leaving Tuesday. He's driving it to Amelia Island. And so they got like a 12-hour haul in this car. And on top of stuff in the shop that just needs to be done in general, he's a one-man operation at Lufttechnik now.
Right.
His sister like answers the phones. His father comes in and like, he's like a panel beater. He'll come in and work on some like long-term like bathtub restoration, like 356s and stuff. But Robert's like the only dude in the shop like getting like all the work done.
Yeah.
And so he's working 7 days a week. He does all of his motor and gearbox building on like Saturdays and Sundays, and Monday through Fridays like all the in and out stuff. And
That's
so
crazy.
I can't believe he's gotten it. And I appreciate Robert and all of his updates, because he'll just randomly text me a video of like number 1 done and running, number 2 done and running, and the third one, because the other 2 are getting trailered down to Amelia Island for the concourse, and the Targa that he's driving down. We're woven from the same cloth. This whole like, let's drive this car cross country like in a week type deal. So I totally appreciate that. So that vitamin or energy drink sponsor remark is that he needs one too. He deserves one. I don't feel like I'm doing enough to like really deserve one, but I don't drink energy drinks, but I am on a really steady vitamin regimen. Otherwise I'd be dead or incredibly sick.
Yeah.
We'll work on that. BJ McCardle, first of all, says, as always, hope y'all are doing great. We are doing great.
Yep.
Stressed out, tired, exhausted, under the gun. But that's what that's what I feel like when I thrive. I feel like I won't get anything done otherwise. I feel like if there's like a time crunch and everything has to be done, it'll get done. To the expense of my health and, longevity of my health, I guess. But
yeah, it's all right. You don't need that.
He said, are y'all wearing black Vans?
Oh, I'm wearing the blue ones today.
You get the blue ones. I do.
Yeah.
For those of you listening and not watching on YouTube, yes, I've got the black on black Vans Ultra Cushions on. The Maker Artisan series, very comfortable. Then you've got the classics, the blue and white.
Yep.
Yes, we are both wearing Vans as usual. Corey's wearing all black, as am I, but he's not wearing the black Vans.
Yep.
I am, however, wearing, for those of you listening, I'm wearing the new Governor's Club and Purpose and Passion podcast collaboration t-shirts. I'll have these available at Riverside in Chattanooga, Tennessee in 2 weeks. I only have a small limited run done on this particular batch, so come and get them while they're available. TGC logo on the back, Purpose and Passion logo on the front, and both sleeves actually have prints on them. Got a Governors Club logo, and then a Live with Purpose and Passion logo on the other sleeve that also says it in Japanese and Russian, just to kind of add some international flavor to it.
Absolutely.
But those are black, obviously, so come and get them. Come and get them. He also asks top 5 root beers, as always. Oh yeah, I'm reading this. I'm reading this out as always. Hope you all are doing great. But he said top 5 root beers. He's interested in trying some new root beers out. I don't know what ones you have or have not tried, and I'll reiterate. Corey and I are root beer connoisseurs.
Yes.
Lately, boy, I don't know. Abita is really good. That's a Louisiana root beer, but Fitz, where we stopped at in St. Louis, Missouri, that's really good.
One of my go-tos is Boylan's. You can just get it right at the grocery store.
You can get that locally here in the Northeast. Yeah, that's
Boylan's.
Yeah, that's a good one. Boy, I don't know. Dad's is good. I like Dad's. Yeah, there's a few others. There's off the top of my head, for the sake of not like a dead silence, trying to think of more root beers. I'd say Sprecher for sure. That's a Wisconsin root beer. Abita's Louisiana. Fitz is St. Louis. Boylan's is out of Boston, I think.
I think so too. Yep.
Or Northeast. Boylan's is good. Dad's. Yeah. I'd try those. Those are some of the favorites off the top of my head. Well, to be honest, one of my favorites is right here in New Hampshire at the Woodstock Inn and Brewery.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I think they call it the K&M root beer. They used to sell it to you in a 64-ounce growler, and I've got like 8 growlers out there until I realized that they did refills. Yep. Obviously, they'd refill a growler, but I never thought of it. I was going up there just buying growler after growler after growler, and then finally they started to like recognize me, and they were like, "Hey, you've been buying a lot of these growlers." I'm like, "Yeah, man, the root beer is amazing." Like, you do know we do refills for like a third of the cost, right? And I'm like, "Oh,
makes sense."
So then from there, I had like 10 growlers or something. I started refilling them, and when friends would visit from out of state or out of country, I'd give them a growler.
Yeah.
So I'm down to like 2 growlers now, but that's my favorite. So if anyone's ever in New Hampshire and you're looking for a good root beer, go to the Woodstock Inn and Brewery. The food's amazing there, but the root beer, and they brew their own beer. Corey and I don't drink, so we're not reviewing any beers because I've never even tried beer, so I don't even know. It'd probably all taste awful to me.
Yeah.
I guess at the get-go.
Yeah.
But yeah, from what I hear, the beer there's amazing too. So get to the Woodstock Brewery. It's right down the street from Loon Ski Resort. So it's a perfect time to go up there this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
Deadite. Chris.
Yep.
Part of the whole 14th Street crew in Ocean City, Maryland. The boys from New Jersey.
Yep.
Asks, any plans to make a sanctioned event in Ocean City, Maryland? Well, not like a show. We're going to continue to do the TGC meets down there because those do really well. And even though they're a Sunday night event, a lot of people stick around in town for them. And that's half the reason why I do them on Sunday night, because a lot of the riffraff's gone by Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And because, as most of you know, Ocean City gets pretty crazy nowadays. But we do them Sunday night specifically so it's all of us like enthusiasts can get together and no knuckleheads, like people who are gearheads and want to like hang out and enjoy our cars and just chit chat and enjoy like the last night. And I do understand that a lot of people leave town Saturday night or early Sunday morning because they've got a long drive and they've got to get back to work on Monday. But Sunday night's been a great time to do that event because there's barely any riffraff. And a lot of times the sheriff's department will show up because we do it on the mainland. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad they do because they kind of like any knuckleheads that are kind of trickling in, they see the police are there. I never ask them to be there, but I encourage it. I'm glad they show up because it allows us to just like have our time. Right. We can hang out for a couple hours and just like relax. And that's what it's about. So to answer your question, Chris, if anything's going to be sanctioned, it would be sanctioned with like a landowner, like property owner. It's not going to be an actual show or anything like that. It's going to continue to just be a grassroots core like car meet. Yeah. That's what I enjoy most.
Last year worked pretty good with the Cars and Coffee on Saturday morning.
Or was that Sunday morning? It was Sunday morning.
It was Sunday morning, yeah.
Maybe we'll do on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We did do one at Fractured Prune Donuts. And there's not a big parking lot there, hardly one at all, but it got overrun. Mm-hmm. That was great too. No riffraff.
Yeah.
Cars and Coffee. We did it at like 8 or 9 a.m. And obviously as more people wake up, they trickle in.
Yeah, it was good that people could roll in and hang out for a minute and then head out if they wanted to, and more people could come in. And
Yeah.
It's kind of a flowing meet.
It was, yeah. More and more people showed up as more people left. I think we're going to do one of those too. Maybe we'll make it Saturday morning so there's more people in town.
Yeah.
So we'll do a Saturday morning Cars and Coffee TGC meet this year in Ocean City, and then we'll do the usual Sunday night send-off meet. Usually try to have some sort of slogan for each one each year, but I am going to be making key rings this year too, guys. Each year's been a different medium, different style, different design with the year specific on them. This will be like the 5th or 6th year I'm doing them. I've already got a colorway in mind and a design in mind. Really excited about it. It's going to be like a 90s theme. It's going to be a retro theme to the whole meet and the key ring. So as usual, scavenger hunt, find me on the strip. It won't be hard because I'm going to be in the Toyota Century.
Yes.
Man, I can't wait to cruise the strip in that car.
Heck yeah.
And as I mentioned before, we're going to do the podcast of the century in that thing. So I'm super excited. Super excited. Nick Sander asks, plan on traveling to Japan at any point? If so, what would you want to do there? Yes. I've been putting it off. I've wanted to either do the Tokyo Auto Salon just as an excuse to get to Japan, but I really want to go in the spring or the summertime. Kazuki, who most of you guys know has the Bag Testarossa and now recently the Bag Diablo, he'll message me every now and then and be like, when are you coming to Japan? And I'm like, buddy, you don't have to tell me twice. So whether or not we stay with Kazuki, I don't know, but it'd be amazing to like go and visit him, see his shop, hopefully go for a ride in the Testarossa and the Diablo. He'll have the Countach done by then.
Yeah, just be around those cars.
Yeah, but regardless, I really want to visit Japan for the culture, the food, go to one of those like Bosozoku or Shakotan shows where Mount Fuji's in the background or a VIP show. Now that I'm a Century owner, like I'm just obsessed with that culture, car culture specifically. So I'd want to do everything really. I'd want to enjoy the culture, the history of the country, and also immerse myself in the car culture there too. So yeah, hopefully in the next year or two, we'll be getting out there. My buddy Jack Smith, who you know as well from England,
yes,
who is building an insane box Chevy right now. He's got a Caprice, which is cool in England because that's like a quintessential American car.
Right.
Lowrider, 100-spoke Daytons on hydraulics, and he just finished the most insane pinstriping flake paint job over the whole car. He's never done anything like this before.
It's crazy. It's mind-blowing.
And it's mind-blowing to him. He's even posting on the internet. He's like, I can't believe I did this.
Yeah.
Like, I can't either. So he's done an incredible job. So check Smith Jack out on Instagram. His Caprice is just mental. He said, would you ever consider building a newer car? Now, we've talked about this on some previous episodes.
Yeah, a couple times.
I'm not much of a newer car guy, as most of you guys know who know me. I'd do an S90. I'd do an S90 Volvo. Those things look so good. So yeah, I'd consider it. But right now, like as far as my budget and where my interests are right now, it's just not on the table.
Right.
But I know you've had some newer cars than me, so
yeah. And there are a few new cars that I want to do. Seeing all these newer Audis, Avants around is like amazing. Oh man, like Marcel's car. Yeah, definitely want to do one of those. But
yeah, Marcel's car is amazing. He's a friend of ours in Cologne, Germany. Dude, we got to make Worthy happen again this year.
Yeah.
It all costs money, but you can always come home and make more money, right?
Yeah.
You can't make more memories. Well, you can, but you can't go back in time.
Right.
So, yeah, I'd consider building a newer car if all the cards were right. Loki.og asks, this is kind of on that same wavelength, would you ever build a Miata in your own style, of course? You know what? I think I would. But it would be a first-year Miata. Not just a first-gen, but it'd be a first-year Miata, so it's kind of got that going for it. It was like a first-year available Miata.
Yeah.
I can't tell you right now what I would do. I'd like to do one with like big wheels. I would like the lower one. I know they're great, like track cars. I know everybody like loves driving them.
Yeah.
But I like aesthetics too. I think I'd like to I don't know if it'd be static or bagged, but like do big wheels, not like overly huge, but big enough to where they're talking like real, just I don't know, real crazy looking like shock value Miata that doesn't have a ton of camber. It's just like super low with big wheels, like big split wheels, or like a Japanese split wheel or something. I think that'd be kind of cool. Luke Duville says, this is actually kind of interesting. You and I talked about this before recording. He said, money, no object. You can have one model from each make: Mercedes, BMW, and Porsche. And so I did think about this a little bit because there's so many. and I wanted to make sure I chose one. Now, Mercedes would be a toss-up. It would either be, now because we're talking money, no object, it would be a 1955 300 SLR that they only made 2 of.
Yes.
And you and I saw one of them at the Mercedes Museum in Stuttgart, Germany.
Yep.
But I was able to see the other one that Mercedes brought to Amelia Island in 2016. So to have been able to see both of the only 2 that were ever built, basically it's a 300 SL Gullwing on steroids. It's like the race version of the 300 SL Gullwing. So it would be one of those or an Evo 2 190.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard one.
The BMW, it would be a 1967 1600 GT Alpina. Because I saw a 1600 GT once, but then I saw photos of an Alpina one, and it blew my mind. So it'd be that or a 507. But I like coupes more than roadsters, and the 1600 GT would be my pick. And then for Porsche, a 904, man, mid 60s 904. Those things are just a dream. And I got to see one in person. A gentleman in Fort Myers, Florida, brought one out to Eurotripper, Paul Barney's show down in Fort Myers. And he brought one out. I thought it was a kit car because there's no way a guy would be driving one of those on the street. And Paul's like, no, that's a real one. That guy's a heavy hitter, and he drives all of his cars. So I don't know. What about you? If you could think of it off the top of your head.
Yeah, definitely an Evo 2 for the Mercedes.
Yes.
Just because you have to have it. It's just an all-around to be able to drive it, to be able to, look at it every day.
It goes right along with your love for the Lancia Delta.
Of course.
Kind of same era.
Of course, yep.
BMW?
I have a weird thing for the 2002 Touring.
Me too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
that
that's
weird,
not
that weird hatchback.
Yeah, it's not a high dollar car, but they're rare. And
but we didn't get them
funky
here.
looking, right? And we didn't get them here. Yeah.
I like the 4-door, like 1600s or whatever.
Yeah.
Like the 2002s and 1600, I guess. But the E10 4-door is a really cool looking car as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what about the Porsche? I know what you're gonna say here. Well, maybe.
Yeah,
because I know you love the newer GT3s.
I do. Oh yeah, GT2 RS would be top of the list. But going back to, I think before we talked about like the hand built 906, 907. The hand built race cars, I think would be.
Yeah, and the predecessor to the 904 was the 718. That was like a late 50s car, and that's like an open top comp screen.
Mm-hmm.
Those cars are just so nuts. And the idea that you could, like, if you made enough money, obviously, but the idea that you could, like, own one of those cars and look at it in your garage or in your living room, if that's where it was, because that's a car you put in your living room.
Exactly.
Or just drive. So money, no object. Yeah, those would be the choices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, followed closely by the 959.
I was going to say a 959. You already know my fixation with that car. The fact that it, like, changed... it was all-wheel drive, and the technology that was in that car for the day and the time was just unprecedented.
Yeah.
And to see that one at the Porsche Museum in Stuttgart blew my mind.
2 kilometers on it.
You knew. Yeah, I had seen it and admired it from like afar, but we'd been walking all day, so I went and sat down, and you walked over, and you were like, hey, go look at that 959. And I was like, yeah, I know, I saw it. And he goes, no. Or you go, no, go look at that 959.
Closer.
And I was like, oh, what did I miss? So I walked over there. All the while kind of looking back at you, and you're like nodding your head, and I was like, so I get near the driver's window, look at you, you nod your head. I look in the window, look at you, you nod your head, and I like look right at the kilometer or right at the odometer because I knew that's what you were talking about. And it had 2 kilometers on it.
Yeah.
That's like what, 1 mile?
Yeah. So they made it across the street.
Yep.
Pushed it into the museum, and that was it.
That's
never. Yeah.
Maybe one spinner on the block.
Maybe.
So cool. Yeah, the 959 would be a close second for me too. And I don't care how ugly some people think it is. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful car.
Absolutely.
And shout out to Benny for getting us in the Porsche Museum.
Yes.
For giving us a tour and kind of, we didn't get a chance to go downstairs because Benny had to run. So Benny basically manages the Porsche Museum, as you know. And I had never met Benny. We'd kind of become friends on Instagram. And when he asked if we were coming through Stuttgart on the way back from Austria, from Wörthersee. And I said, yeah, we're actually thinking about stopping by the Porsche Museum. And he just said, park underneath in the parking garage and give the receptionist your name. We'll have, there's like 9 of us or something.
Yeah, there was
we'll have 9 passes for you. And I was like, man, that was amazing. That was amazing. And Benny, what a nice guy. I mean, I really hope I get a chance to hang out with him more. He's doing a lot now. Him and Jean-Pierre are doing a lot with Porsche. And they're going to Monaco every year for like the vintage stuff. He's doing a lot more with Porsche now, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So that was an amazing experience. Dylan Keener. TD's asks a couple questions. He says, what car would you buy with a $5,000 budget, including mods? You are speaking my language, my friend, because that is where I thrive. That's my favorite. That realm of budget is like my favorite because you can't go wrong. You can go. You could go look at so many cars. And so for me, I put some thought into this because those of you who are listening, I have a notebook that I write all of these down in, and it's an exercise to myself to just write more, to be more in touch with like pen on paper, but it allows me to not get lost on these questions or stay on track as well. But that being said, writing it down, I was able to think about it before we went on air. To me, a $5,000 budget, including mods, what I hope will be pretty soon will be a Mopar K car.
Yes.
Like a low mileage, elderly woman owned K car. Buy some cheap coilovers for like a Volkswagen, like some Racelands or something super cheap. Mm-hmm. They have like a crappy spring rate, but you can always swap that out. But you'd have to modify coilovers to go in those cars, obviously. But buy a cheap coilover, $300 shipped,
mm-hmm.
And just go on the Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist hunt for some cool split wheels.
Yep. And
refinish them yourself so you don't have any of that money invested, which you and I like doing.
Of course.
So yeah, a Reliant or just a K-car wagon or a saloon or a two-door. I think they made a coupe too. I'm not much into the convertibles. An Omni 2.2 turbo maybe. But anyway, a K-car. A K-car. Including and not limited to the Caravan.
Mm-hmm.
Static, super low, small split wheels. 5K all day long.
Yeah.
Let's do it, man. I got to get that Century down. We're going to do a K-car. What about you? I don't know. What do you think? 5K?
It's so hard to narrow it down because
I won't even know.
We kind of joked earlier, like in the $5,000 ballpark, it's like you can do anything,
especially if you do a lot of the work yourself.
Yeah,
you're not outsourcing stuff.
Exactly.
And to be honest, I don't know until half the cars I own now, or I have owned in the past, I didn't search for. Like I searched for the Century for years. And to be honest, Mike Cashman just sent me a screenshot of it for sale, and I just sold the 7 Series, and I was like, well, finally.
Mm-hmm.
So I have not set out to search for a car and then finally found one. I've owned cars that I've always wanted to own, but they were at times where they just appeared.
Right.
Like the Lada. We were in England.
Yeah.
And I was just scrolling through their carandclassicuk.co website.
Yeah.
And sure enough, there was a Lada 2 hours away, and it was like 2 days before we left for Austria. I don't know, let's go look at it. Yeah. And I ended up buying it. I PayPal'd friends and family, PayPal'd a Russian man who I'd never met before for this car that he kept the keys to.
Yes.
He gave me this little laminated, what was the Lithuanian registration. He gave me that.
Yep.
He kept the keys. I PayPal'd him, friends and family, no buyer protection. And then we headed for the Eurotunnel and headed to Austria.
Yes.
And so, talk about sketchy. It turned out to be amazing. Like the whole deal went off well. But Dean, our buddy Dean Flowers, we had a friend of his, Simon, going to pick the car up the next day. But that 24-hour period, I was like sweating bullets.
Yeah.
I'm like, did that guy just take all my money? Still got the keys. But yeah, so anyway, so I never know what I'm looking for. So for the $5,000 budget, if I just set $5,000 aside, the world is my oyster.
For real.
You could find anything for $5,000, in my opinion. But Dylan also asks, least favorite place to travel to? Baltimore, Maryland.
No hesitation at all.
And that's not, I'm not knocking the city. I'm not knocking the people in Baltimore. I've just had terrible experiences in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And I avoid it. I don't avoid it. We got jumped in Baltimore when we were down there on a BMX trip years ago. We were able to get away. Nobody got hurt. But it was a very serious situation. We had all of our camera gear out, video gear out. We were filming. We were just outside Morgan State University. And we were just in a rough area. So it could happen in any city.
Right.
It could happen in any town even. But it was a very serious situation. We were able to get, and it was like an even amount of people. There was like 5 of us, or maybe 4 of us, and like 4 or 5 of them, and they came in. It was clear before they even got to us that they were coming to steal all of our stuff. So
yeah,
we got away. But anyway, so I jokingly say Baltimore only because the few times that I've been there, I've either been sick, broke down, or been jumped.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. Least favorite place to travel to? Can I say home without upsetting like my family since they live close by to me? I don't like coming here simply because I come home to work and save up more money to hit the road again.
Right.
And travel.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
What about you? Any like places that you've been where you're like, never again?
We joked about just like driving through New Jersey whenever you're in New Jersey. It's just like,
Yeah.
I'm just ready to be beyond. But
Yeah.
it did remind me of that one time we were trailering the Lotta back from the port.
Newark.
And we got a little bit turned around.
Well, I was borrowing my dad's truck at the time, and when the oil pan on my dad's Dodge was getting a little tender.
That's right.
And
That's right. I forgot about
unbeknownst to me, once we got down there, we got the whole Lotta sorted out. We got to the port, we got it, and I ran back to the truck and trailer to get it into the port to load it up. And there was a steady line of oil just running right out of the oil pan, and basically a thin part of the rusty spot of the pan had let go.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than touching it and causing possibly a larger hole to start, even just like cleaning it up to put some like quick steel on it, it could possibly make it worse. We just Googled the closest AutoZone or closest auto parts store to like go get more oil and just top it off and go. Because when the thing's running and the oil pumps, when you park it and everything stops running, that's when it starts to really, all the oil runs back to the pan and just runs right out of the thing.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, without even thinking about how close the port is to the sketchy parts of Newark, we just went to the closest auto parts store. And by the time we pulled into the parking lot, and there was like an easy tent set up with like a dude changing people's oil in the parking lot. Yep. I was like, oh, this is not good. And then the quickest way back to the turnpike took us through an even sketchier part of. We saw that dude.
Oh my god!
I'll have to reshare it on a story because I did share it as a story. We're at a red light now. Clearly, people in the hood love Lottas.
Mm-hmm.
The thing's bone stock sitting on the trailer, and everyone's like hollering and screaming like, "Oh, it's a sweet car!"
Yeah.
So maybe that was why we got out of there safe.
Maybe.
But we're sitting at a red light, and there's a dude in a wheelchair, definitely from that area, with one leg, trying to pull himself with that one leg uphill, up the yellow line of this road. And basically, I think he was panhandling people at red lights.
Yeah.
But there was nobody in this area. So he was moving on to a new spot, I think. And he was pulling himself with one leg up the yellow line, up this street. And I think you had said, you're like, well, we're not in New Hampshire anymore. Like, we are definitely not.
Where are we?
Yeah. Newark, New Jersey. That is a peculiar place. Let me see. Doug. Yeah, so Doug, life in the VW Square, who works for Caster Air Ride, which is a South American air suspension company, says, Corey, let's run Caster Air Ride in the Benz.
Yes.
So we got to talk with him about that.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
He said, tell us more about the Volkswagen as well. Now, since that is a South American car,
mm-hmm.
it kind of goes along with the, how he works for Caster. And he's from, was it Brazil? I think he's from Brazil.
I think so. He has a Fox too, doesn't he?
He does. He has a Fox sedan.
Yeah.
Yeah. That he's putting Caster Air Ride in.
Right.
Which I think is pretty cool. I mean, obviously, I've worked with Airlift Performance and AccuAir most recently on the Century, and have all the praise to say about them. But as I was talking to Doug and the owner, the CEO of Caster at SEMA this year, they're interested in working with us on a project.
Yeah.
And I think it would be awesome to do a South American car with a South American air suspension company.
Right. Absolutely.
And I just so happen to have a South American Volkswagen.
Yep.
That we could probably work something out. I think that car would be really cool static too, though.
I know.
Like a belly scraper. Like, I don't know. We'll see. But about the Volkswagen, yeah. So I had a 1989 two-door Volkswagen. They only made the wagons in a two-door. But I'd always loved like shooting brake style wagons.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the two-door wagon Fox kind of looks like a mix between a shooting brake and like a two-door Corolla wagon kind of thing. And that's a car that some friends and I built a custom coilover setup for in the car, and made drop plates for the rear, raised the motor. It was a belly scraping car, and my buddy Josh Brown shot it for Eurotuner magazine in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the November of 2011 issue. It was on the cover, had the 2-page spread in the content section, had the centerfold. It was that was the first car I ever had in the magazine. And that was really kind of cool because it was just a rattle canned it flat tan. I took my time, so it didn't have any runs or streaks or anything like that. I mean, I feel like it was a decent job for what it was. But that was a really fun car, but it wasn't a show worthy or magazine worthy car. They only ran it because it was just different, you know? And so that was really quite a, dream come true, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
Like not that I ever strived to have a car in a magazine, but I never thought I'd ever have a car in a magazine. So that was really cool.
It was that and the mini tank, right?
Yeah. Yeah. My dad and I built that gas powered miniature tank to go with it. We built it so it fit in the back of the wagon.
Mm-hmm.
And same color scheme was all the same. And yeah, I still have the mini tank.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We'll have to break that out this summer.
Mm-hmm.
If we end up moving, I'm going to have to break it out anyway. That is going to Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe with a revamp.
It'd be really cool to put some crazy motor in that thing. It's got like a 5-horse Tecumseh in it right now.
Yeah.
And it goes for what it is. But my dad wasn't too stoked. After we finished it, we hand built the body and all that. I chopped the chassis up and like lowered it and cambered the front wheels just to give it like this silly stance look. So now it drives awful. It doesn't steer well and toes all off. But yeah, it'd be cool to break that thing out and actually shoot some photos of it.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Ulp, Jakulp, Jaku LP asks, which cars do you have the most time clocked in working on? I'd say easily the Corvair, the 700. My dad and I built those cars together. We chopped the roof on the Corvair. We basically built all the suspension from scratch on the Corvair too to get it to lay belly. So we had a lot of time onto that. The 700 more recently, we have a solid. My dad kind of clocked the hours on that car. He's more diligent, more methodical than I am. I just kind of go, I just like do. And he was actually like kind of logging the amount of time both him and I were both working on the car. He logged about 800 hours that we were both worked on it in just under 3 months. I'd say we're probably 1,000 hours easily on that car from January to April when I ultimately trailered it down to Alpine Vag Fair. So I'd say those two cars. My cab over has a ton of time invested too. Even if you don't include the 5 years it's been sitting out back on the tarp.
Yeah.
Poor thing. I'd say the Corvair, the 700. _ Andy Crew, who's from the UK. He came to our TGC meet at Wörthersee in Austria with that W220 Mercedes that had curtains in the back.
Yeah.
And I made him some custom laser engraved Governor's Club leather straps to hold the curtains back.
Yeah.
Really cool car. He's trying to come to Ocean City this year too.
Oh, awesome.
I don't even think I mentioned that to you.
No.
Andy, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to you on Instagram. He asked like what dates we were going, I think was the last I talked to him, and I didn't even get back to him yet.
Yeah.
Everyone, if you're listening and you've messaged me on Instagram or especially Facebook Messenger, I don't even check those messages anymore. I'm sorry. I've got so much going on. I try to get back to everybody on Instagram. I really do, because I enjoy talking to people about cars, answering questions. I really do, but man, there's only so many hours in the day, and I hardly text my friends back now because it's just difficult.
Yeah.
But so Andy, we're going the last weekend of September, 26th to. Let me pull this up real quick, and we'll let all of you guys know what days we're going to Ocean City, Maryland. We are going September. We will be there the 23rd, which is a Wednesday, through Monday the 28th. So we'll be there the last week of September. Marcel, Tim, and Eugen from Germany are coming over. Mm-hmm. Ben Walker is going to come back over.
Perfect.
Andy might come over. I got a crew cab dually now we can haul the trailer with, so we're all going to pile in that. And whatever you're driving, people will pile in that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll have the Century, so that can fit 4 people. And
very comfortably.
Man, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
It's going to be a good year.
It's 2020.
Yeah. All of 2020.
It's going to be good. My buddy Mike Koziel is going to have his Alice 400 there, which is black. We're going to have a whole bunch of black Toyotas mobbing the strip. Man, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. But Andy asks, I didn't even get to his question yet. What's one of your most memorable car-related experiences? I'd say driving my Corvair to Solo in 2014. That car sat for 41 years, and without going into all the detail about the build of that car, basically it had been off the road for 41 years, was headed to the crusher, saved it from the crusher. My dad and I rebuilt everything without doing an engine out rebuild. Basically redid anything plastic or rubber that was in the motor: seals, push rod tube seals, oil cooler seals, shroud seal, basically everything, and exhaust gaskets. We built a custom exhaust, oil pan gasket. We basically went through. It's an air-cooled motor. There's not much else that really. There's no like coolant jackets that can like seize up or or whatever. So, I drove that car by myself to Helen, Georgia. And I went through Nashville first because I was dating a girl there at the time. Yeah, and it took me 30 hours each way, basically. Had a bunch of breakdowns, one way more serious than the other. Had to fix a seized wheel bearing on the side of the Jersey Turnpike during commute hours on a weekday after having been up for 20 hours driving home, basically.
Right.
Yeah, that's a memorable one. Not necessarily the most, like the best memorable one, but that's a memorable one nonetheless. But one that you and I were a part of would definitely be driving from England clear across Europe down to Austria for Wörthersee.
Absolutely.
That's one of my most memorable car-related experiences.
Yes.
And I'm sure you can obviously
of course
agree with that one. Yeah, those are two right off the top of my head. Oh, last summer.
Yeah, I was just going to say driving across this country too.
Driving my E23 to LA, roughly 3,200 miles, and then flying to Seattle and getting the Toyota Century, a car that has no mechanical or parts support here in America, and driving that clear across America back to New Hampshire.
Yep.
Yeah, we have a ton of memorable memories, but those are a few to name the top ones for sure. We're gonna shift gears and get into a little bit of music too. This one's a tough question to ask or answer, I guess. But Tanner L. Boyles asks, favorite band. Can't answer that one, but I'll give you a few of my favorites from like high school that I still listen to now. So I guess that would be top, let's say 3 to 4 that I still listen to now that I've been listening to for 20 years now, because I graduated high school in 2003. Refused, Swedish post-hardcore band, changed my life in music too. So Refused, At the Drive-In, Me Without You, early Me Without You, A to B Life, Catch for Us the Foxes, Brother Sister, those albums. Me Without You by far. The Appleseed Cast, Moving Mountains. There's all sorts of stuff though, because I listen to everything.
Yeah.
Brighton. Like I listen to everything from acoustic stuff to post-hardcore to heavy stuff to I even like I love listening to Hank Williams Sr. Like old Western.
Yeah.
Old hip hop. But yeah, favorite bands will be those for sure. I don't know, what about you? Can you even pick 3 off the top of your head?
No.
That maybe have spanned like a 10-year or more that are still relevant now. Not necessarily what you're listening to now.
Under Oath off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Definitely.
The Changing of Times is the first album. I heard that one before I heard Acts of Depression.
Yeah.
When Dallas was still the front man of that band. Changing of Times is still one of my favorite albums of all time because of where I was at in my life and what it did like in my life.
Yep.
They're Only Chasing Safety obviously was like the beginning of their like their aesthetic now, or their overall band now.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Yeah, it's tough.
Just a couple others off the top of your head?
Norma Jean has always been one of my favorite bands from the very beginning.
Even through the frontman change.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. Because they did what Under Oath did. They had like, I think everyone, but I don't remember if his name's David. The drummer was like the only original band member in Norma Jean, and their style, their genre changed so aggressively, but I liked it.
Right.
Some bands will do that, and it's like, no, change your name. This doesn't work.
Exactly.
This is a whole different band. This isn't working. But both Under Oath's transition and Norma Jean's transition, I loved. Like I liked it. And yeah, they could have changed their name and still like done well as a totally separate entity. But
right.
Yeah, those are good. I'm glad you're listing those because I could have as well.
I'm surprised you didn't say Misery Signals.
Yeah, so Misery Signals, all my friends in the Midwest, Milwaukee-based band. And my buddy Mike Hinkins, who I rode BMX with for years, we were teammates on numerous companies. We have the same birthday too, by the way. Mike, I'm pretty sure it was Mike, because Mike played music in the Milwaukee area for years as well. He used to jokingly say that he hated Misery Signals because they broke up every band in the greater like Milwaukee area.
Yeah.
Because they'd lose a member and be looking for a member, and like other members of other bands would leave to join Misery Signals.
Yeah,
so they were like the death of like a lot of other bands. Dead to Fall was another Milwaukee-based or Chicago Midwest band that kind of was born out of the Misery Signal days. Misery Signals changed. They were the first hardcore band I ever listened to that had guitar writing the way I like to write. Lots of delay, lots of ambient guitar work.
Yep.
But with like a hard edge to it. So I like that.
Another one of my long-standing favorites is Every Time I Die.
Yeah.
They've done a lot of changes too, but
stayed pretty.
Yeah, but
Keith Buckley's
it's progressive. You know what I mean? It's the changes worked. You know what I mean? So
that's another favorite of mine too. That's like if I were to try to pick a favorite that isn't so like mainstream, because I feel like they got huge, but that doesn't matter to me. That's still Gutter Phenomenon and Hot Damn are still two of the best albums. Even The Big Dirty. I remember when The Big Dirty came out, it was like, I don't know. And then I listened to the whole album through and I was like, yep, this album is nails too. I just love Keith Buckley's writing style too. It's very like I'm the man and you're not kind of like, I don't know, just it fits for the style of music, I guess. So those are some of our few.
We could go on for literally days.
We could do a music podcast, and maybe one of these days we will, because we're both musicians and music nerds too. Yeah. So yeah, we could dive far. We could dive deep on music. And that kind of leads me into Jack Smith asked another question. He said, how did you and Corey meet? Were you childhood friends? We weren't childhood friends.
No.
But we met through music.
Yep.
And we didn't really start like becoming friends until it was like through cars.
Right.
But both Corey and I were playing in bands here in the New England area. I don't know, when do you think we did meet? 06 or 07 maybe?
Yeah, that's a good estimate.
Because I don't even remember the first time I met you.
Yeah, we were acquainted for years before we were friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the first time we actually started, like the beginning of like us hanging out was in 2014 or 15 at Volksbahn when I was there with the Derby.
Yep.
And you showed up with the Rabbit.
Yeah, because I think I had like given you some axles to try to make for the Derby.
Because we had to make custom axles on that project.
Yep. And I think we were both at Volksbahn that year, and then that was kind of the start of it.
Yeah, when at Volksbahn was before I started that suspension project. I just had it on lowering springs.
Yeah.
Because I remember when you first came up to me and started talking to me, I for a quick second, I hadn't seen you in a long time. And I was like, it took me like about an hour. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's Corey.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't seen you in years.
Yeah.
Because the last time I'd seen you really seen you was when we were playing music, which felt like ages previous. And then I got into the suspension project. You had some axles that I needed. And that's kind of where the friendship really began. But it was music and then transition into automotive, which seems to be the case.
Yeah,
with a lot of different
pretty
people.
common.
It is. So to continue on with some of the music questions, GaryBB.E28 asked, are you a self-taught musician or did you take lessons? I'm self-taught. Yeah, I'm self-taught. And if anyone listening is interested, you can go to The Rising Sea on Instagram. That's my music page. And on that page, I've got a SoundCloud link to some demos. Now, to be honest, these are like unfinished demos I recorded myself that I put up specifically to correlate to the Rising Sea project. I've got some albums of some previous solo projects of mine that are like professionally recorded, but they aren't online anywhere because this was before, we had them on MySpace. Then the MySpace thing died out, and then Facebook didn't have a good like music player page.
Right.
So and they're not on YouTube. So I'll have to start adding some of my old music online. But if you guys go to the Rising Sea page, there's a SoundCloud link there, and if you go to SoundCloud, it's just The Rising Sea. I've got some stuff on there. It's like indie rock. It's like ambient indie. It's all me. All the instruments you hear are me. I write and record everything myself. I'd like to get to the point where I'm just recording pre-pro stuff, and then I can get into a studio and actually record like professionally and get something. That's on the back burner, man. That's my main passion.
Of course.
Music's more of a passion to me because of the way it moves me and the way it moves other people than like cars or BMX or any other hobbies I have. So it really bums me out that I feel like the years are passing by and I'm not really putting my 100% soul effort into that project or into that hobby, I guess. But yeah, so you guys can check some of my music out at the Rising Sea. But I am a self-taught musician, and I'm no savant or prodigy, but I play drums, play piano. I'm not as good as I wish I was on piano, and I wish I stuck with it more. But I started playing guitar. Guitar is what I started learning when I was in like 7th grade. A bunch of my friends were taking lessons, and I kind of like caught residual of some of that. They'd be like, oh, I learned this today. But I'd basically buy like chord books and just learn different chords, then immediately canned that. And my parents made me learn on an acoustic guitar, which I thank them for, but neither of them play music,
Yeah.
or they both have phenomenal voices. They both sing, but I'm like the first person in my family to like be a musician.
Right.
And but they made, because they'd always heard that learning on an acoustic was like the way to
Yeah.
go. And I'm glad they did, because all I wanted was a guitar, like an electric guitar with distortion. I wanted the riff. That's all I wanted to do. But
Yeah.
once I did get that, it was easier, you know. But yeah, it was a long process, you know. And I got into the theory of music too, because the way I write now, I write in this really weird minor tuning. It's not quite an open tuning, but it's a very bizarre tuning, and I'm sure other people have written in it, but I don't know. I'd never heard of the tuning. I was just kind of messing with an open major tuning, like an open D,
Yeah.
and then started messing with bringing a few strings down to a flat to make like a minor tuning. And now, since I write like sad music basically,
Right.
or dismal sounding music, it helps. It helps promote that overall theme, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, so I'm self-taught, and I kind of wish I had a bit more of a formal training in music, because I'd be able to write easier. I could sit down at the piano and correlate all my instruments in like a quicker facet than trying to figure it all out as I go. Michael John _ asks, what are you listening to typically on the road or in the shop? Well, this is how we can correlate this to current events.
Yes.
We kind of talked about our favorite bands that have transcended the years
Yes.
through our growth as humans and all that. Currently in the last like week, I've been jamming to the new Tiny Moving Parts album, which I just sent to you.
Yeah, I just listened to.
How good is that album?
It's so good.
Oh my gosh. And I love, because they're intricate. They're very tech, and they're very unorthodox, and I really like it. But they're unorthodox, but it's not weird.
No, it
flows.
works.
Yeah,
it works
flows.
for everything they have combined.
Yeah, I can't listen to weird music just for the sake of it being weird, because it won't flow. It doesn't have like a good vibe to it. But typically on the road, I float, depending on the travel, I float through a whole bunch of different music. Brighton, I listen to Brighton a lot.
Yeah.
He's like indie rock, and he sings in my range. I have a very mid-range vocal voice, and I can't hit like the high notes. You've heard me plenty of times in the car. I try to reach, like when we're listening to like Dance Gavin Dance. Or
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'll
world.
reach for the sky with falsetto and can barely hit it. But Brighton, he writes in a very mid-range, so I enjoy, like, especially when I'm alone on the road, I belt my lungs out. I sing. I'm a songbird in the car. So I like listening to music that's kind of mid-ranged vocally, so I can sing along without blowing my voice out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brighton, Tiny Moving Parts lately. New Counterparts album is good.
Yeah. All the Counterparts albums.
All of them are good. Yeah, I don't know. I listen to a whole bunch of stuff on the road. Whole bunch of stuff. It's tough to kind of try to pull it all out of the hat on the spot.
Yeah.
Without there being long dead silence while we're trying to think about it.
One of my favorite road trip albums is La Dispute, the early one. Oh, I always forget the name of the album because it's like long. It's super long.
Yeah.
Anyways, the early La Dispute, the full album front to back is just, I have it pulled up somewhere at the bottom of the river between Vega and, that album front to back is just amazing.
I've listened to them, but I haven't really like gotten into them. I feel like I should, because I like the stuff I've heard. So that's a band I haven't really gotten into or immersed myself into listening to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a few more, because I know there's some really good ones, but drawing a blank.
Dance Gavin Dance.
I've been listening to a lot of that newer Dance Gavin Dance.
Yeah.
Like with Tillian.
Yeah.
And Tillian's side project stuff. His solo project stuff is phenomenal. His voice is out of this world. That dude. And what I like most, Dance Gavin Dance has become one of those bands that's like kind of become not mainstream, but like in that genre, I guess. But what I really appreciate most about that band, and Tillian specifically being the front man of that band, I've listened to a couple interviews he's done, and he challenges himself on every album to write better melodies than he's written before.
Right.
And he uses his voice as an instrument, like a guitarist would try to challenge himself to write better material or more challenging material, or to step out of his comfort zone. And Tillian says that that's how he writes, and each album he tries to write differently, but challenge himself vocally to try to like make his voice do things that like even just like pitch bends or note hitting from like octave to octave or something. And I really appreciate that. So I love that whole band, their tech as all tech can be anyway, musically.
Yeah.
So it just fits that the vocalist is also following suit with the rest of the band members. So I enjoy that about the band. And by the way, I didn't even mention this to you yet, even off air. They just released their new single off their new album just 2 days ago.
Oh, they did? Awesome.
Yeah, it's called Prisoner. Okay. They've actually got a music video for it too. And they released the date. April 2020 is when the new album comes out.
Nice.
But Prisoner, I love it. It's not quite as like hammer hitting nail heavy.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good. Yeah, so you guys, we've been jamming to Dance Gavin Dance lately. So to switch things from music over to BMX,
yes.
Greg, the Swoops, asks, you were a professional BMX rider. Did you ever try skateboarding? Yes, I did, Greg. Yes, I did. So all my friends were skateboarding when I was in school. Well, not all my friends, but most kids that were into that type of thing were skateboarding. Not a lot. Nobody was into BMX.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a skateboarder. I wanted to be a skateboarder more than ride a bike. So I got a skateboard, and I can tell you now, man, having had a career in BMX, I sustained more concussions trying to learn ollies, shove-its, or kick flips than I did over the span of 10 years of riding a bike full time. And so, yeah, I did try skateboarding. I've never dropped in on a ramp, never once. I took too many slams on flat ground just trying to get all four wheels off the ground on a skateboard to know that I shouldn't touch a ramp with a skateboard. So my rationale was I can hold on to a bike. I already know how to ride one, and I can hang on to this thing for dear life if need be.
Yeah.
So let's just go with that. I've got one up on a bike than I do, or I've got one up over skateboarding on a bike.
Yeah.
So I stuck with it, and the goal was to never be sponsored. I never made a sponsor me tape. I never there's obviously a dream. Once I started to learn more tricks, we'd watch videos, we'd watch riders ride and say, wow, I couldn't even imagine being a professional rider. Like not necessarily just the money, but like just to be able to travel and see all these places and meet all these people and ride and then to get the free product and to get paid to do it. And never once, I grew up in a small town here in New Hampshire, didn't have a big group of people that I rode with. It's not like I was riding with professional riders every night or every weekend at the skate park, and you were around that caliber of rider in person. The only time I was exposed to that is when I'd watch a video before I'd go ride to get inspiration and to get motivated. And so it's not like I was riding with a bunch of like envelope pushing riders in person that always motivated me to push my envelope too.
Right.
And more or less waiting for my time to be sponsored. You're almost like under their wings, and it's like you're almost like ready to fly the nest, and now you've got a sponsorship. So to me, that was just not even in the cards. So for that to ultimately come to fruition, and I'm sure one of these podcasts we can talk more about like just that whole journey.
Right.
Was just mind-blowing to me. It was just so crazy because I wasn't really a contest rider. I was more of like a tech rider. And if you guys, it's easy to search the videos like on YouTube and stuff, with some of my BMX stuff, but it was all like tech stuff. Like I watched Rodney Mullen skate videos before I went and rode my bike because I loved how Rodney Mullen was like a tech rider, or tech skater, nose wheelies, all sorts of real tech stuff. So I was really into like the video game aspect style of riding to where there's like 3 ledges in a row, and I'm going to do 2 grinds on one ledge, land in a manual, go to the next ledge, do 2 more grinds, and then to a nose wheelie to the next ledge. I loved combination riding and like real tech, like dissolving all these tricks and mixing them together in like one overall line. That was my favorite. So that wasn't a big thing in BMX in the early 2000s. It was like flares and quarter pipes, and front flips were becoming a thing in like 05, 06, something like that. That wasn't my style. So to have been able to make a living-ish, if you want to call it that. I survived off of BMX. Didn't really make a living. But yeah, that was pretty crazy. So to add to that, the next question was sent in by Sander Poon. He asked, what was it, how was it riding with that crew on Road Fools 18? And man, I'm glad you brought that up because that was the highlight of my BMX days. for those of you who don't know, there was a video magazine company called Props Visual. And if you're into skating, it was like 411. It was like a bi-monthly or monthly. I think Props Visual was monthly. It was a monthly DVD that came out that had contest coverage, had rider bios, so like interviews of specific riders. It had scene reports. That was my favorite part. They'd go to a certain part of the country or the world and film like a 15-minute short of like that entire scene, what the riding spots and skate parks were like, the local scene there, and what there was for like local talent in that scene. But then there'd be like individual rider bios. And once a year, Props would put out like an all-star DVD trip, which was called Road Fools. And it obviously was a funny spinoff from the MTV show Road Rules.
Right.
And it became one of the biggest BMX DVDs in the world, because I remember as a kid, I could not wait. I think they might have even done like 2 a year at some point, but they took 10 to 12 of the best BMX riders in the world and put them on a tour bus together. And they went to a part of the country or a part of the world and filmed a DVD over the course of like a week to 10 days. And that video was just what you'd think it would be. It'd be like the best video you've ever seen, because it was an all-star group of guys and different characters mixing together, living together on a bus and in hotel rooms and stuff. And it was always hilarious. But the riding that was produced on these trips was just unbelievable. So when I started riding BMX in like 2002, 2003, Road Fools was already a thing. And I'd buy every single one. And once I got sponsored and started riding more, there was never a goal to go on Road Fools, but you had to be invited to go on Road Fools.
Right.
You know, it wasn't like there were tryouts or anything like that. And in 2010, I got invited to go on Road Fools, and this one was Road Fools 18. And man, oh man, was that just an honor. That I couldn't believe it. And this particular trip was San Jose, technically San Francisco, to Salt Lake City. So we did San Jose, San Francisco, San Bernardino. I can't remember. But we basically did NorCal over to Reno, and then all the way through to Salt Lake City, and points in between as well. And that came out in 2010, September of 2010. Yeah, that was incredible. So to answer your question, I already knew all the guys on that trip. There were a couple guys I hadn't met in person before, but I had been riding full time for 6 years at that point. So it was basically just like getting on a bus with like a ton of my friends, and maybe friends that I hadn't spent that much time with, just seen at contests or something. It was incredible. It was the most memorable, one of the most memorable BMX memories that I have and cherish. So thank you to Marco and Stu Johnson and Chris and everyone else that's involved in Props for having me a part of that saga, that whole era of BMX, you know, because now we're in a whole different, I don't even know if they're doing print or like DVDs anymore. You know, I think it's just like an online thing now. So I feel honored to have been a part of Props Road Fools when I was. And then Andy Crew from the UK also asked a BMX related question. He said, who were your idols when you were riding BMX? I didn't have idols. I had favorite riders and I had like mentors. And those like favorite riders, luckily for me, became friends. And to me, that was it was more important than like going on Road Fools, but that was something that I never had even expected. The first BMX video I ever bought was Ride Industry, and that came out in like 2000 or 2001, and I bought it in like 2001 or 2002. I remember buying it at like a Record Town, like our local like CD store.
Yeah. And
they had like, you know, extreme sports videos and stuff. And I bought that video, and here's what's crazy. And this is where do we at for time here? We're an hour and a half in. Yeah, we can close this up pretty soon. So the first BMX video I ever bought was Ride Industry. And in that video, it was basically riders sections. So like 6 different riders had like 5-minute sections or something like that. And Jeff Harrington had a section in it. And Jeff Harrington was riding for Profile at the time. And the last part, like the banger part of the whole video, was Brian Castillo. And he started Volume Bikes.
Yep.
And Brian's part specifically motivated me to learn certain tricks. like when I'd go out and ride. That part blew my mind. Watching him manual 180 the top of a picnic table was just like, that was like before people were doing that.
Right.
And he'd hop over stuff that was just like, it seemed like you couldn't hop over. And it changed the way I looked at BMX. And ultimately, as fate would have it, my first pro sponsorship in BMX was a frame company called The Take out of Binghamton, New York, which was made by FBM. And Jeff Harrington owned that company. Mm-hmm. And he had a part in the first video I ever bought. And my third frame sponsor after The Take, years later, was Volume, owned by Brian Castillo, which is one of my favorite riders. And after Volume, I mean, this was pretty surreal at this point. To have Brian on the other end of the phone asking if I was interested in riding for Volume was like, really? Like, you want me?
Yeah.
Me. Like, I'm the one who could hardly hop up a curb, and I watched your part in ride industry, and it changed, and now we're, 5-6 years down the road, and you want me to ride. And I've even got the Ride BMX magazine issue, in the news section, it says like John Ludwig is now riding for Volume Bikes. And like, that was just, man, so meaningful. When I look back on that, like, I'm so grateful to have been able to be a part of BMX when I was, because it's just such a crazy sport now. Mm-hmm. But after Volume was Deco, and that is owned by Chad DeGroot, who is one of the best, and he'd argue this, but he's one of the best flatland riders in the world.
Yeah.
He was even voted like top 10 most influential flatland riders or BMX riders by Transworld. Mm-hmm. And he had helped me out with UGP, Underground Products, which was a clothing company, BMX-based clothing company that Ron Bonner started in like 1987 or something crazy. Ron went on to start the Shadow Conspiracy.
Right.
And ultimately that distribution brand that started Sabrosa and a few other companies that are still around now. But Chad was the manager of UGP, and he was flowing me some product like shoes and clothing and stuff. But when he started Deco, his own frame and parts company, I ultimately left Volume, which with no hard feelings. Brian's good friends with Chad too. I left Volume and started riding for Deco, which again was like, wow, like Chad, and Chad was already a friend of mine, but to just be a part of a company that a rider that I looked up to, like one of my favorite riders. I had posters of Chad, Brian, Jeff Harrington, Dave Mira. Yeah. All those guys were on my wall as a kid. And to become friends with all of those guys and to be able to ride for their company was just a dream come true.
Yeah.
It was so crazy. And I'm still good friends with Chad. I'm still in touch with Chad. I talk to Jeff every now and then. Yeah, what a blessing. And to touch on Dave Mira, this, I don't tell too many people this story because it never came to fruition. But in 2009, when I moved to, let me back up. In 2008, the local exposure tour came to Rye Airfield. Mm-hmm. And this was headed up by Alan Cook and Fox. I think Fox Racing had a big part to do with it. And Dave Mira was on board at this point. And basically, it was a crew of pro riders that would go on a tour around a certain part of the country and go to these skate parks and hold contests. And the winner of all these contests would get like a Flow sponsorship from like Fox or from Miraco, which was Dave Mira's company that he started after he rode for Haro for years. And Miraco was actually owned and made by Trek, I believe. And so anyway, local exposure came to Rye Airfield. And although I'm not a contest rider, I went to it because my buddy Dave Rytel was riding for Miraco. Alan Cook, I'd known Alan. I hadn't met Dave before, but all these guys there were some friends involved in this. So I went out and I rode. I just rode in the contest to basically promote Madeira, UGP, and a few other companies I was riding for at the time. I think 2008, I was still riding for Versa, which was the frame company I had a signature frame with. Mm-hmm. And 2008 was a big year because that was the year we unveiled that signature frame of mine at Interbike in Vegas as well. And so anyway, I had never met Dave before. And at one point during the day, we ended up on the same ramp. It was just hanging out. We're up on the same ramp together. And it's pretty surreal now because those of you who don't know, Dave is no longer with us. And he took his own life, and it was a tragedy to people who just looked at people who were inspiring, not just in the BMX community. Right. Dave did so much, and it was so incredible. But I hadn't had a chance to meet him yet. Now, mind you, I had Dave Mira Pro BMX video games.
Right.
Like when I was in high school, And so I wasn't starstruck, but I was just really stoked to be riding the same ramps with Dave now. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And I watched Dave. He had a part in ride industry as well, if I remember correctly. And so I was just super excited. So I introduced myself. And this will sound like, I don't know. I don't want it to sound condescending or like, not condescending, but like self-absorbed.
No.
But like I introduced myself to Dave, and Dave was like, yeah, man, like I know who you are. Like I love like your style and stuff. And and that's when I was almost like, whoa, hold on a minute. I'd been riding professionally for like 3 or 4 years at the time, but that floored me. I'm like, this is Dave Mirra, the Tony Hawk of the BMX industry, the Michael Jordan of the BMX industry. And I'm shaking his hand. He's like, no, man, like, yeah, no, I know who you are. And I was like, oh, like this is what? It's now let's really amp this up. Let's like show Dave what we're made of. Not really. We had an awesome day riding, and that was just an incredible experience to me because it was an important thing for me to meet Dave, and the fact that we were already on like a mutual friend level was really cool. And because he was a larger than life kind of guy. Mm-hmm. He'd changed the sport in so many ways. And it was still leading the way.
Right.
You know, like for a mid 40-year-old dude, he was still like killing it. So to catch back up to speed, in 2009, when I moved to Florida, I moved to Orlando, and I was riding for Deco at the time. I was still riding for Madera, which was based out of St. Petersburg. Chad was from Orlando. So I had a couple sponsors in Florida. So that's kind of what spurred the move to Florida. When I first moved down, there was a Vans contest at the Vans skate park, the one that was in the mall in Orlando. And Dave Rytel, who's a friend of mine who was from Florida, was there. And he was one of the judges. He was riding for Miracle at the time, which was Dave Mirra's company. And Josh Harrington was there. And Josh Harrington, who I was on Road Fools 18 with, is one of he's a legend in the BMX community as well. He rode for Haro and Premium for years. He was one of the judges as well. And my style isn't like a contest style.
Right.
But I ultimately took second in pro at the contest. And Dave and Josh both kind of, Dave and who else was, oh my goodness, Ryan Gutler. I'm glad I almost forgot his name. Ryan Gutler was also riding for Miracle at the time. And Ryan was one of the judges there. He was over from Australia. And so Ryan specifically approached me after the contest and was like, hey, are you riding for a frame company? And let me back up. Now that I'm telling a story, I remember I wasn't riding for Deco yet. I was still riding for Versa.
Gotcha.
But Versa was being buried. Like the owner was kind of driving the company into the ground and nobody was happy. DeGroot was riding for Versa at the time and had left. And that's when he was starting Deco. He was kind of starting his own thing because he was sick and tired of like the hoops he was having to jump through with Versa. So Ryan was asking me if I had a frame sponsor. And I said, yes, yeah, I do. But I guess my tone, he was kind of like, are you happy? And I was like, not really, to be honest, not really. Some people have left. I'm kind of just hanging on right now. I said, basically because I've got a signature frame and I just kind of want to see where this goes, but it's not looking good. And he said, well, I'd be interested in putting a word in with Dave with Miracle.
Yeah.
We're really looking for like a street style rider. We've got a lot of contest guys right now. And I was like, wow, that'd be amazing. Like, is that something you'd be interested in? And I was like, yeah. And to be honest, we even talked like numbers. He's like, well, are you getting paid? And I was like, yeah, I'm getting this. And he's like, oh yeah, let's talk. And I was like,
yeah.
Oh, so this would be like a pro deal, not just flow. So now I'm thinking, oh my, Miracle, would this even be a thing? Like, this is like corporate sponsorship type deal. Right. Not that that's what I wanted, but the fact that somebody who rode the style that I rode would be in that space is just kind of unheard of for me. Other guys that rode like me were there. So we exchanged numbers, and my buddy Nick Mahoney, Nick, I hope you're listening to this. My buddy Nick Mahoney was a contest style rider, shredder, total shredder. And he'd gotten a chance to meet Ryan Gutler because Ryan was like a super pro at the time. And so I rode back home with Nick, and Nick was like, man, like, Miracle, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Because Nick was doing like, triple tail whips or double tail whips. And he was like a contest rider, and like, he would love to ride for Miracle. So he's kind of like, as we'd say before, taking the piss. He was like kind of ripping me out, like just kind of jokingly giving me a hard time. And on the drive home, we had a 10-minute drive home. Ryan Gutler texted me, and he was like, hey, just got off the line with Dave Mirra. He's totally in. He'd love to have you a part of Miracle.
Dang.
But because Miracle is owned by Trek and they were bound by budgets and like kind of the corporate game, he's like, we got to like run through some hoops and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Are there any video parts that you have recently that you're proud of that like we can like pitch to, the board basically. And I just finished filming my Vital BMX interview, and that's on Vital BMX. And I think somebody recently posted it on YouTube. If you search my name on YouTube, that will come up, I think, the Vital BMX interview. And I actually wrote the music for it. It's a long, and now guys, if you search for this, I need to let you know, this was 2009. I was a kid. I was not mature. The things I say, they're embarrassing to me because I was like a BMXer. I had long hair. I was wearing a headband. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
I was not like as refined and like calm as I am now. So I look back with fondness, but embarrassment. But the riding, that's my favorite video part I ever filmed. Like I'm most proud of like the video, like of the stuff I was able to produce riding wise in that video part. Me talking and running my mouth, so this is definitely, I'm not too proud of that, but it's a 2 music part. It's like an 8-minute long video. And the first song I wrote specifically for this video part, but that part had just come out. And so I pitched that to Ryan, and he goes, yeah. And he sent it out to Dave, and they're like, dude, we're super stoked on the part. And it looked like things were going to come to fruition. And I was like, man, this was going to be incredible. Turns out Trek ended up cutting budgets like severely.
Yeah.
And not only did they not add people to the roster and to their budget, they cut people from the team.
Oh.
And I think Mike Spinner might have been one of them, a buddy of mine, who's like he was like the first dude to do a 1080 on a bike. Jeez. And Mike was a good friend of mine. He was a Florida boy. I think they cut like Mike, they cut like Dave Rytel, they cut a bunch of my friends who were riding for Mirko. So no hard feelings, but to this day, and like I said, I don't tell that story much because I never technically rode for Mirko.
Yeah.
But the fact that Ryan and Dave Mira both like wanted me on the team was just incredible. And the fact that Dave's not with us anymore, I hold that dear to my heart now.
Right,
it's like I got a chance to know Dave a little bit. We weren't like friends. We didn't like text each other or anything like that, but it was cool to become like, distant friends with Dave, and the fact that he saw something in me, not just on a skill level of riding, but me as a person, that he wanted to add me to his company Mirko. And that I think about that often now that Dave's not with us. I think about that a lot. So it's something I cherish. And that might be a good spot to end it.
Yeah.
Other than like announcements. I don't know. What do you on the same subject, we're taking our bikes to Riverside.
Yes, we are.
We're taking our bikes to Chattanooga, because the Chattanooga skate park, although it's like a prefab skate park, looks like a really fun skate park, and it's in the back lot of where Riverside is held.
Right.
And every year I fly down for Riverside, I'm like, I want to bring my bike one of these years because that skate park looks like a lot of fun. And Mason's always like, you got to bring your bike. And so now that we're renting a van and driving the whole booth setup down there,
yes,
we are bringing our bikes. If you are in the Chattanooga area or coming to Riverside, bring your bikes. We will session the Chattanooga skate park. We're going to be down there for 2 weeks. We're going to have time, and we'll have our bikes at the show too. I mean, we'll be vending, so we'll be busy the day of, but let's ride.
Yep.
Bring your bikes out. We're going to be there. We'll do some wheelies, we'll do some no footers, and hopefully not hurt our backs anymore.
Do some Wendy's.
Yeah, we'll do some bicycle Wendy's. What else, man? Anything?
I don't know. Yeah.
We're an hour and 40 minutes in.
It's pretty good.
It's a good spot to end it, I guess.
Yeah.
This is a good filler. I'm glad we were able to do this before we left. Even though I feel like I was just telling stories the whole time. But
nothing wrong with that.
We got a chance to expand on some Q&As, which we'll do in the next one for Mason as well. Mm-hmm. Mason will be next. We're getting geared up for Riverside. March 14th, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Got a lot of work to do between now and Wednesday when we leave.
Yep.
A lot of work. I know you're trying to catch up on projects at Preservation.
Yep, just to get ahead before I leave. And
yeah. And so if you guys are going to be at Riverside, again, we'll be there with the Governors Club booth. Riverside TGC collaboration keyrings are done. I got to finish assembling a few of them. The Purpose and Passion Governors Club collaboration t-shirts. I'm going to have some wooden rearview mirror hangers done. Some Governors Club leather keyrings, a new style, brown leather. I'm real stoked on these. Gonna have some stickers. New slap stickers are on the way. My buddy Phil Can is cutting some TGC vinyls as we speak. The Anchor vinyls are going to be back in stock. They'll be available at the show first, then I'll have them in stock on the web store. Check the Governors Club out on Instagram, spelt out just the Governors Club. The Rising Sea, if you guys want to check out any of my music. Night Laser with a Z, which is my laser engraving business, and I make all the hard goods for TGC, so all that's made in house. Corey Marshall is at limitless_Corey,
Yep.
Corey.
Yes.
And you can follow me on Instagram at john.ludwick, LUDWICK. I just posted photos of the Century on the ground for the first time this
you're gonna
morning.
Want to see that.
Thanks, man. I want to see. I want to go back and
I
just
know, right?
pull up a chair and sit down and look at the car.
Yeah.
I told you, it has nothing to do with what I did. Well, I know it's lowered, but I personally didn't do anything that someone else couldn't do to that car.
Right.
It's the car.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just so stoked to I'll sit there for an hour and just absorb like the beauty of that car, the body lines. And now that it's aired down on the Desmonds, I like that the vision I had for the car has kind of come to fruition. But yeah, I want to see that car.
Yeah.
I want to drive it. I am stoked. Guys, if you're excited about cars and learning, dive in, buy that project.
Yes.
That $5,000 budget project, the $2,000 budget project, buy it, tear into it, follow your favorite YouTube channel, your favorite Instagram like shop that's building cars or whatever, get motivated, learn a skill. This is what I'm doing. I mean, I want to weld more. I mean, all the welds on my projects are mine for the most part. My dad helps me with a lot of welding too, since he's more experienced than I am. But like, I want to sit down and TIG weld more. You know, that's my next. I've TIG welded a little bit, and luckily for me, I feel like it's going to be a thing that I'll be decent at.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable doing it. But yeah, there's still so much more I want to dive into and learn. So guys, if I can leave you with anything, just dive into your hobby.
Yeah.
And get stoked. Life is good.
Never
and,
stop learning.
No. Life is good, man.
It is.
Can't wait. Can't wait to be in Tennessee and hang out with friends. And that's it. We'll leave you guys with that. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Episode 5 will be with Mason, more than likely. And, or it'll be 5 or 6. We'll definitely have Mason on. But Mason's the best too. He's articulate. He's hilarious. You guys will get some laughs out of that episode, I'm sure. But thank you for watching. Much love. And we will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
See ya.
All right, let's get some food. Chicken Caesar wrap. Oh, does your back hurt as much as mine does?
Yes.